think a big part of making the tax system fair is about how the IRS enforces the tax laws that are already on the books. When a teacher gets ready to do her taxes, the school sends her a W-2 form, and they send the same thing to the IRS. She knows how much income to report, and the IRS knows how much income she's supposed to report. It's called third-party reporting. It keeps people honest because the IRS can spot it if somebody fudges the numbers on their return. But not so for the top 1%. Most of their income comes from business interests and capital gains that they receive when selling assets. There's no third-party reporting for these types of income, so the IRS counts on the richest taxpayers to follow the honor system. Professor Gamage, it sounds like we have two sets of rules here. Wages for teachers and bank tellers and construction workers are all automatically reported to the IRS, but for the wealthiest Americans, it's the honor system. So tell me, is the honor system working?
No, it's not working, Senator, and it should be fixed. The academic literature is clear that compliance is very high for income subject to information reporting, and especially when there's both information reporting and withholding, as there is for the vast majority of the income earned by ordinary Americans. By contrast, tax compliance is quite a bit lower, much lower, when there isn't information reporting or withholding, as is the case for much of the income earned by the ultra-wealthy. It's past time to fix this.
So this kind of underreporting by high-income taxpayers creates what we call a tax gap, taxes owed but not paid. As some folks referred to earlier, IRS Commissioner Reddy was here last week, and he estimated that the tax gap may now be as high as $1 trillion a year. That is about the same as the amount of all of the Social Security checks that were sent out last year. Now, the IRS tries to catch tax cheats by auditing tax returns, but the wealthy enjoy a different set of rules here, too. After a decade of politically motivated Republican budget cuts, the IRS enforcement budget is now nearly 25% smaller than it was in 2010, and the agency employs 30% fewer enforcement personnel. Professor Gamage, the Republican budget cuts hollowed out the IRS. So what has that meant for the IRS's ability to conduct audits and catch tax cheats?
Thank you, Senator. The IRS is simply outgunned when it comes to trying to catch and police the tax shenanigans of the ultra-wealthy and largest businesses, whether these be clearly illegal, what the tax gap is mostly measuring, whether these be legal but very aggressive, I mean, it's not caught, but the more important category may be the borderline category. It's very well known, for instance, among the highest priced tax lawyers, that if you set up a complicated enough flow-through, pass-through structure through which income is earned, the IRS won't have the resources to be able to audit and challenge and look through what happens in that flow-through structure. The idea is to try to make, among many of the high-priced tax lawyers, is to do this while staying just on the side of what's legal, but maybe crossing over it, although a fair amount of what goes on crosses that line into clearly illegal tax evasion. Regardless, the IRS just doesn't have the resources and competence to look through these excessively complicated structures. And I'll repeat again, this is economically wasteful. Lots of money and resources are being tied up in these excessively complicated structures for tax abusive reasons, tax planning reasons, whether legal or illegal. We can and should prevent this, both through tax reform and, importantly, through giving the IRS the resources it needs to operate as tax police.
Yeah, and looking at the numbers on this, audit rates for people reporting more than $1 million in income have fallen by 70%, and for people reporting more than 10 million, it's fallen by nearly 80%. Audits of big corporations, those with more than $1 billion in assets, have fallen by more than half. It's just as you say, Professor Gamage, these are complicated audits to do, and when the budget gets cut, that's where the IRS has been cutting. While the IRS has turned its eyes away from the wealthy and from giant corporations, it has come down hardest on the people who are cheapest to audit. very low income taxpayers who qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit, or the EITC. In fact, if you are earning $25,000 in a rural community in the South, you are more likely to be audited than if you are a millionaire living in New York City. The most audited counties in the country are poor, rural, and predominantly African American. Ms. Strotter, does it seem fair to you that the IRS has all the information it would need to double-check your employees' incomes right there at the IRS's fingertips, but that the wealthy get to hide income and wouldn't likely face any consequences from that?
Senator Warren, it is absolutely unfair in so many levels to not have documentation to make sure that the wealthiest among Americans are paying their fair taxes is a disgrace. You know, the IRS knows what I should pay. You know, it was referenced that they received the W-2, they know how much income I have, they know what I should pay. And to sit in this hearing today and understand that the same rules do not apply to the wealthiest of Americans. One thing that Mr. Cassidy said that is correct is that the rich will do fine.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You know, I'm working with my colleagues, including Chair Wyden, on a bill that strengthens IRS enforcement. One of the features of this bill is the requirement to strengthen reporting so that the IRS can verify information on wealthy individuals' income. Another is to give the IRS more funding to audit millionaires, billionaires, and giant corporations. Stepped up enforcement against these big tax cheaters would give us as much as $1.8 trillion in new revenue over the next decade. The only people who stand to benefit from a weaker IRS are wealthy tax cheats. Fixing the IRS is about making sure that the government is fair and that we have the revenue we need to invest in a stronger future for all Americans. Senator